It's a very sexy scene on the train ride home. That's not funny because there's no sex on the 14 o'clock train. Years ago, Diane Lane was 14. She was on the cover of Time magazine. By age 18, she had a beautiful face and was a millionaire. Hollywood was interested in her as a teen star, but the farther she went, the quieter she got. People thought she was having affairs with both Timothy Hutton and Christopher Atkins for a long time. But she didn't finally say it until she was 59 years old. People always thought she was dating someone real, from when she was a young star in A Little Romance to when she was in the deeply disturbing scene in Unfaithful. Diane Lane has been through 2 failed marriages, a controversial arrest, and a lot of stories that were never cleared up. Who is she with those sad eyes, though? You won't want to miss this story that has never been told in full before. She was born in New York City on January 22, 1965. Colleen Lee Farrington, who went by the name Colleen Price, was her mother. She was a bar singer and model, and she was Playboy Miss October 1957 centerfold. Bert and Eugene Lane, her father, was an acting coach in Manhattan. He worked as a taxi driver, ran a theater school with John Cassavetes, and then taught. Nicole's parents split up when she was only 13 days old. The girl's mother went to Mexico and asked for a divorce, but she kept Diane until she was 6 years old. She gave Diane to her dad when she moved to Georgia. After that, Diane lived with her dad in New York for many years. They moved from one apartment building to another and often took taxis every day together. Diane's childhood was marked by rides across Manhattan in an old cab, a strange way of growing up, and a strange way of going to school. She didn't grow up in a stable home. Instead, she lived in small stages in the wild life of artists. She had to grow up during that time. Diane told her father she had CED when she was 15 years old and no longer had to live with him. Chris Atkins, her co-star and friend from Child Bride of Short Creek, went with her to Los Angeles for a week. Diane said she did this because she was too young and free to think about anything else. Back in New York, she moved in with a friend's family, paid her rent, and used a mail-order school to finish high school. But all of a sudden, in 1981, her mother showed up and took her back to Georgia. Diane and her dad went to court, and after 6 weeks, Diane was finally able to go back to New York. Diane Lane sometimes went to the town of BAU while she was in Georgia with her Pentecostal grandma. That's where she learned how to live simply away from all the noise. She talked about having a carefree life with no responsibilities and eating meat butter that was salted. That helped her stay cool and grounded in the crazy world of Hollywood. She had to grow up quickly, her parents divorced, and living in unstable situations. All of these things helped Diane Lane become an independent woman who is wary of the media and always makes a clear distinction between her real life and the part she plays. Diane Lane's movie career began when she was a child in 1979 when she co-starred in a love comedy with the famous Laurence Olivier. Diane Lane became famous all over the country overnight on screen thanks to this movie. It wasn't just a stepping stone. She was more than just a cute kid. She was a real actress with eyes that could show a lot of different moods and a depth of feeling that was way beyond her years. There was a lot of attention on her when she was on the cover of Time magazine on August 13, 1979, with the title Hollywood's Whiz Kids. The magazine called her a fresh breeze in an age of cinema lacking. People loved Diane Lane, not because she was perfect, but because she was honest and pure on screen. Diane Lane didn't act like she was reciting lines. She lived in each scene and made adults and kids believe every emotion was real. By the time she was 14, Diane had already earned the audience's trust, which is something that many actors work their whole careers to do. That great start would help her earn Hollywood's most valuable things, patience and respect. Soon after, Diane continued to be in a string of major films like Touched by Love and Six Pack. Then she was at her best in movies like Rumblefish, The Outsiders, Streets of Fire, and The Cotton Club. Many of these movies were directed by Francis Ford Coppola, who gave her 3 roles in a row, which was a huge compliment for a teenage actress. By the time she was 18, Diane Lane was a millionaire thanks to her high salaries, busy film schedule, and constant appearances on the big screen. But as her fame grew, so did the bad things that went along with it. When she was still a teenager, she was said to be dating co-stars Matt Dillon, Michael Paré, and Richard Gere just because they got along so well on screen. A lot of people don't understand that just because I play someone's lover in a movie doesn't mean I love them in real life. Also, most of the roles she got at this time were variations on the ideal girlfriend, which meant she was typecast and rarely had chances to show a wider range of emotions. This made people confuse Diane, the actress, with the character she played, which made her have to stay away from the media and be more picky about the scripts she took. Diane Lane jumped right into Hollywood and became a star, which was impressive, but soon she learned that being famous doesn't mean being understood, and being a great actress isn't enough. You also have to know how to survive in a world that wants to write your story for you. Diane Lane moved on to a new stage in her career where she didn't just act, but demanded to be heard as a fully formed artist. In 2002, she played Connie Sooner in Adrian Lyne's Unfaithful, a wife who cheats on her husband not out of lust, but because she feels deeply lonely and disconnected in a marriage that seems perfect on the outside. Diane's first time playing a character with so many layers and emotional conflicts was in Connie's scene on the train after her first affair. There is no dialogue or sex, just trembling hands, dazed eyes, and shallow breaths. The scene is still praised as a great example of acting through silence, but few people know that it wasn't in the original script. Diane told the Jess Cagle Show, "We had finished the shot and were bringing the train back to the station when Adrian Lyne said, 'Just shoot something.' I didn't ask anything. I just closed my eyes and started. It only took one take, and we never did it again on late night." She laughed and said, "There's no sex scene on the train, but everyone thinks there is." That's the power of emotion and the lens. Diane Lane's performance as Connie got her nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress and the Actress of the Year Award at the Hollywood Film Awards. But more importantly, it changed people's view of her as more than just a teenage girlfriend defined by her male co-star. It made them see her as a real actress whose eyes and silence could carry a whole movie. After Unfaithful, Diane Lane didn't slow down. Less than a year later, she was back in Under the Tusking Sun, 2003. Diane Lane based her character Frances on a real person. In an interview on Late Night with Conan O'Brien, she said that filming in Tuscany at first seemed like a dream vacation, but after 5 weeks, it got too much. She said, "I had eaten all the wine, all the olive oil, tried all the pasta, and I missed my normal life." Diane Lane was nominated for a Golden Globe for her role as Frances, a woman who came back from Heartbreak strong without acting. As Frances, Diane Lane became a role model for middle-aged women in Hollywood. She showed rebirth in a way that was deeply human, slow, clumsy, and true. With Under the Tuscan Sun, Diane Lane wasn't just an actress who had outgrown her teenage fame. She was a grown woman connecting with a whole generation of women searching for themselves after loss. As Frances, Diane Lane became a role model for middle-aged women in Hollywood. Diane Lane didn't just play the same character in Tuscan Sun, she played quiet, flawed women whose inner lives were full of silent rebellion. In A Walk on the Moon, 1999, she played a wife who is slowly drifting away from the marriage she once chose while her husband is at work in the summer vacation, becomes empty. Diane's character quietly betrays him, not because the lover is irresistible, but because she no longer sees herself in the quiet life of a devoted wife. The movie doesn't have any dramatic confrontations. It just shows the eyes of a woman who knows she's doing wrong but can't stop. The role earned Diane a nomination for an award, for the Independent Spirit Award, but more importantly, it was the beginning of a new era in which Diane acted with emotion instead of dialogue. In Secretariat 2010, she played Penny Chenry, a middle-aged housewife who reluctantly inherits her father's horse farm. In the male-dominated world of professional horse racing, where men make all the decisions and women are expected to keep quiet, Penny not only survives, but also guides Secretariat to become one of the greatest racehorses in American history. This role broke age-based stereotypes and was Diane's quiet statement, "I don't play the lover anymore, I play the leader." During the Hollywood blacklist era, Diane played Cleo Fincher, the wife of screenwriter Dalton Trumbo. The role wasn't meant to make people feel sorry for her because Cleo was a rare type of woman in film. She silently carried the weight of her husband's decisions without complaining or running away, and Diane did it with suffocating resolve. No big speeches were needed, just standing there showed how heavy her character's decisions were. Diane also went back to romance and nights in Rodanthe, 2008, reuniting with Richard Gere after more than 20 years. This time, they weren't passionate young lovers. They were two adults who had... People thought Diane and Jar were in love because their chemistry spoke for itself in every look and the long silences they shared as two souls trying to heal. Diane Lane kept up a calm and reserved public image for many years. She wasn't one for red carpet drama or controversial statements. She was seen as an artist who lived for her craft and avoided scandal. But in 2005, during an interview with Esquire magazine, Diane broke her long-held silence with a confession that shocked many. It wasn't just the media that was shocked when she said it. It made people think again about the years of dating rumors that have been going around about her. Since the 1980s, rumors about Matt Dillon, Michael Pira, and Richard Gere suddenly took on new weight. But what really made this confession stand out wasn't the names Timothy Hutton and Christopher Atkins. It was the contradiction that showed a woman who so often played characters who were hurt by others. For some fans, Diane Lane's honesty turned her into a figure with more layers of right and wrong, victim and transgressor, role and reality. Others were let down, but others thought it showed that she wasn't acting, she was living, even when the truth wasn't pretty. Diane Lane's personal life has been public since she was young, but Christopher Lambert was the one she stayed with the longest and who still made her smile whenever she talked about him. They met in Paris in 1984. While Diane was promoting a movie, he was a rising star in Europe, and she was a rising star in Hollywood. They fell in love quickly and married 4 years later in 1988. Their marriage wasn't loud or driven by the tabloids, which may be why it's remembered as one of the few peaceful times in Diane Lane's often troubled life. In 1993, they had a daughter named Eleanor, Jasmine Lambert, who Diane would later call the guiding light in every decision she made in life. But like many couples in the entertainment industry, Diane and Lambert couldn't escape the stresses of long distance, busy schedules, and the clash of... After 6 years of marriage, they got divorced in 1994. There was no scandal or anger after the divorce. Both went their separate ways and found new partners. Diane Lane married actor Josh Brolin in 2004, and Christopher Lambert married actress J.M. Sherwood in 1999, but the marriage only lasted a year. From 2007 to 2014, he dated actress Sophie Marceau. Diane never said anything bad about Lambert. She often said, "We truly loved each other, but sometimes love doesn't work out." It's great that they stayed friends after they broke up and raised their daughter together like true teammates. The end of Diane and Christopher Lambert's relationship wasn't angry. It was full of acceptance and growth. That's how Diane Lane decides to live quietly, by taking care of her own problems and never blaming other people. She finally lets someone into her heart again after almost 10 years, and they were just as complicated as she was. They picked actor Josh Brolin, who is known for his rough good looks and rough personal life. They got engaged in July 2003 and got married on August 15, 2004. From the outside, they looked like the perfect pair. Both had been hurt by love, were grown up, and breathed like it was air. But the relationship had its first rough patch a little more than 4 months after the wedding. Before Christmas 2004, Diane Lane called the cops because she and Brolin had a very bad fight at their house. Josh Brolin was arrested for domestic harm, which was a misdemeanor. This quickly made the news. Diane Lane did not press charges, though, and later a representative for them said that the whole thing was just a misunderstanding. The couple's reputation changed, but there were no court procedures and no one was held responsible. Lane didn't say anything to the reporters, press. Diane Lane didn't say anything in the media to protect or accuse herself. She just stayed quiet. So she seemed to pull away even more after that. She avoided public events and spent more time being a mom in the calm center of her home. After almost 10 years of marriage, Diane was the one who decided to end it. And February 2013, she and Brolin filed for divorce, and it was finalized on November 27th, 2013. Neither of them said bad things about the other in public, and there were no court battles or media campaigns after the split. Like always, Diane had dealt with pain without making a fuss, so nothing much happened. Once they were no longer married, Diane Lane and Josh Brolin both had more success as actors. For his part, Brolin said that he had not drunk alcohol since 2013 after a number of events involving it. Diane Lane's first marriage ended with respect and kindness for both partners. Her second marriage, on the other hand, showed signs of stress and emotional limits. Diane Lane never said she was a victim, but the fact that she chose to stand back, keep quiet, and leave was the strongest sign of her self-respect and quiet strength. Diane Lane often plays strong women on screen who deal with strong emotions and deep hurts. Diane Lane brings those feelings to life when she's not acting, like when she plays lonely Connie, who cheats on Francis after he dies in Under the Tuscan Sun, or Martha Kent in Silent Sacrifice. But on a talk show, someone asked her about her cooking skills. She laughed and said, "I'm only good at playing someone who can cook in movies. In real life, I bought takeout and pretended I made it myself." Diane doesn't try to be perfect, which is what makes her so real. As both a draw and a threat, she was up for an Oscar and on the cover of Time magazine. In a 1995 interview with Playboy, Diane Lane talked about a strange and surprising personal interest. "I'm obsessed with thigh-high boots. I have a whole collection of high heels. I love the feeling of being lifted a few inches, seductive, funny, and instinctive." That's Diane Lane when she's not in character. She loves collecting antique furniture, enjoys walking, practices yoga rides, horses, and spends as much time as possible with her daughter, Eleanor. Lane doesn't follow trends or make a big deal about her life. She lives simply but never ordinary. That could be why everyone always thinks she's telling the truth. Whether she's on or off screen, Diane Lane doesn't try to be someone else. She doesn't try to be someone else. She just lives her life as herself, which is sometimes weird or quirky, but never fake. Diane Lane does not go to the media to talk about her thoughts like many other Hollywood stars do. When people don't understand her, she doesn't fight back. And when she breaks up with someone, she doesn't cry in public. Instead, she stays quiet, as if what happens in her life is something that only she needs to understand. People may see that as a sign of weakness, but Diane sees it as a sign of strength. She doesn't have anything to say after 2 failed marriages, a controversial arrest, and a long history of relationships. But there are reports that she still lives in a secret place where the press can't get to, and that her fame doesn't change how she feels. Some stars leave a mark on the world through noise, but Diane Lane decided to do so through silence. There were no controversies, no huge box office hits, and no excessive media coverage. Just a woman who paints her pain in front of the camera. In 2005, VH1 put her at number 79 on their list of the 100 best child stars, admitting the truth. In the same year, she was ranked 7th on a list of the most beautiful stars over 40. People love Diane Lane because she never plays the same part twice. In Under the Tuscan Sun, she is Connie and Francis's cheating wife. In DC Universe, she is Martha Kent. Each woman has her own story full of scars, conflicts, and light. She doesn't paint her characters. Instead, she peels them back layer by layer, fear by fear, so the readers can see real, familiar versions of themselves. After age 40, not many actors' careers are still going strong. Diane Lane isn't the same. She hasn't just stuck around. She's changed. She doesn't demand attention or try to become a female icon. When Diane Lane talks, her quiet voice is the most powerful. It's not claimed for anything or linked to any trend. Diane Lane also does volunteer work in the community, but not many people know about it. She works quietly with Hire International to support projects that help people in poverty around the world. There aren't any loud statements or public drives to donate. There is only quiet, dedicated action that isn't seen but is always happening. There aren't many people in the entertainment business who can say that their impact is measured by golden statues, but Diane Land's is by the trust that audiences have in her every time she shows up. When she cries, we hurt. When she's quiet, we understand. And when she leaves, we miss her. Diane Lane has been honest at work and in her personal life for more than 40 years. Now, she doesn't want to be the subject of tabloid loves or big-name movie parts. She instead opts for a life that is slower, quieter, and more focused on herself. She still acts, but not just to stay famous. It's her job. Diane was a big star on TV as a sassy politician in House of Cards, 2018, and more recently as a famous person from New York's high society in Feud, Cabot vs. Swans, 2024. This won her an Emmy nomination and shows that she is still a star at almost 60 years old. Diane Lane isn't just making it in Hollywood, she's changing what it means to be an experienced, brave actor. Janet doesn't have a fancy life. Every morning she does yoga, on the weekends she rides horses, and she walks whenever she can. Other things she likes to do are collect old furniture, read and arrange flowers. Diane said that being in the news isn't as important to her as keeping her mind and body healthy every day. She loves her daughter, Jasmine Lambert, the most and spends as much time as she can with her. She had her from her first marriage to Christopher Lambert in 1993. Elaine works as a model and writes for Money now. Diane Lane has been in Vanity Fair and been the face of a number of New York fashion ads. Eleanor is a soulmate. The reason I don't lose myself in a world full of noise, she said. Diane Lane doesn't want to stay young anymore now that she's 60. She once said, aging is a privilege. Every wrinkle is a memory. In a business that values youth and smoothness, that sounds like a call to action. No cosmetic surgery, no chasing ideals. To New York. Diane Lane sees getting older as a part of life and finds it beautiful, complex, and full of life lessons. Diane Lane is already a hero, so she doesn't need to call herself one. Diane Lane has gone from being a 13-year-old girl on the cover of Time magazine to a 60-year-old woman sitting calmly on an Emmy-nominated set. She is still beautiful, not because of plastic surgery or perfect lighting, but because she wears every wrinkle and scar of life like a badge of honor in a Hollywood that is glitzy and cruelly selective. Diane Lane is living proof that natural beauty and a strong spirit will always be in style. Here's what do you think? Is Diane Lane an underrated powerhouse of an actress or just a teenage star who once shone brightly and faded? Which of her roles have stuck with you? Tell us what's on your mind in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss our next inspiring portrait. We have more stories to tell about stars who don't just shine, but show others the way. Checking out these great trips.